Okay.
We're on. Here it goes. Hi, everybody. This is Cindy Kennedy, and you're listening to another episode of Living with Lyme. And we're going to talk a lot about women's health and exercise today. We're so very fortunate to have Jenn Pike join us today. She's a registered holistic nutritionist and a medical exercise specialist. So we're going to get our butts kicked, I guess, today. She specializes also in women's health and hormones. She is a best-selling author. She has a book called The Simplicity Project, as well as two cookbooks, The Simplicity Kitchen and The Simplicity Body. She also has a YouTube channel that you can check her out on, Simplicity TV. She is a strong fitness magazine contributor, and we're going to learn a lot today. So I hope that you strap on your seatbelts and get ready as I introduce to you Jenn Pike. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for asking me to be on the show today. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have not talked at all about fitness, and as you're probably well aware, when people have chronic illness, they tend to slow down and they have a hard time
Mhm.
getting from point A to point B. So let's talk a little bit about you first of all. How did you get your start?
Well, it actually was through fitness. I've been in a gym environment with my dad since I was about 6 years old, and grew up with my mom heading off to her jazzercise classes with her girlfriends, and my dad involved in sports, and I really loved being around that environment. And so from a very young age, I was immersed in that. And, by the time I was 14, 15, I knew that that was the industry that I wanted to work in. And so my earlier degree was in human anatomy and biomechanics. And so I started off as a personal trainer, worked with a lot of athletes. And then as I, went on in my career, I was working with more and more women, more and more moms. I wasn't a mom at the time yet. And I was starting to recognize a lot of hormonal imbalances and different issues that they were struggling with, that exercise was benefiting to a certain extent, but sometimes would flare it up. And there was also the nutritional side. So 19 years ago, I went back to school and became a holistic nutritionist. I most recently just graduated as a functional nutritionist. So now I offer a lot more labs and testing in my practice. And I love it. There is no shortage of women who are struggling to understand their bodies and what these signs and symptoms mean. And I really love working with women and having conversations like we're going to have today that go beyond just handing somebody a plan, and instead provide them education so that they are empowered and that they feel like they really have a sense of ownership in their body instead of it running them.
I love what you just said, because more recently, I opened my new wellness center, and because I had a background in gynecology, I find more women than men want to kind of pursue a really healthy lifestyle. And while I was at a local coffee shop, one of my old patients from my gynecology days came up to me and she says, "Oh my God, Cindy, I'm so excited. I want to ask you, will you have a space for all of us women who are starting or going through menopause to kind of learn more?" And I
Mhm.
thought about that and I said, wow, because when I practiced gynecology, I saw women once a year. I gave
Mhm.
them certain things to do. And the following year, they would come back and I would say, "Hey, you taking your vitamin D? You taking your calcium?" And they would say, "I bought it, took it for a couple of weeks and then stopped."
Yeah.
So that's a problem. So accountability, right? That's what it's all
Mhm.
about.
Yeah. Yeah, accountability, and also just that, like I said, that understanding. I think it's, we don't get the education in school that we need about our bodies, and then we leave school, and then we definitely don't have any other education, and life starts happening, and you get a job, and you have a family, or you own a home, and you're just trucking along. And more often than not, when you start to have really good conversations with people, you realize that very few people are living well. Most are just surviving. They're just getting through. And then, if you have anybody who's going through a chronic illness or some type of a flare up, I mean, that is just, well, you've gone through this firsthand. I work with a lot of women in my practice who are suffering from autoimmune conditions, whether it's Hashimoto's or recovering from Lyme or, post-cancer, those types of things. And it adds a whole nother layer of struggle and overwhelm and confusion to it.
Yeah. When you don't feel good, you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's hard that it's, and it's funny. I think that the difference between, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, women tend to tackle a little bit more. I don't want to poo-poo men, but we tackle a lot of different layers, and it's hard because we're always trying to make something better for someone else, whether it's our kids, our parents, we want to make it better for our husband, and we don't mother the mother.
Yeah.
So a patient taught me once, and I'll allow anybody to use this. This is a great thought. So if a mom and her children were in a boat, a little rowboat or something, and it tipped over and you only had one life jacket, who would you give it to? And most people will say, oh, the youngest child or the one who swims the poorest. And I would shake my head, no, no, no. And then the answer is you give it to the mom, because if mom can save herself, she can save her family. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's, you can't serve from an empty cup, right? As we're sipping from our cups right now. But it's so true. It sounds like a cliche. And I find that a lot of people, because that doesn't sound like something that is, that's not sexy, that's not exciting to think about. But it's the reality is that we have to really work on honoring ourselves and doing it from a place where you're not feeling like you're being selfish or you are, taking away from anybody else. And I think, I know we're going to be talking today about exercise and movement. I think that is one of the big reasons why a lot of women don't move, is because they feel like, well, I'm already leaving to go to work. I'm already doing this and that. And then if I exercise, well, then that's more time away from my family.
How do people manage it all? What is your encouraging words?
Well, here's what I would say, if we're going to stay on the thread of talking about as a parent, is that, you go out of your way to make sure that your kids have accessibility to activities and to sports, and that, probably your partner does as well too, and that everybody else is taken care of. And the importance of your children moving their body and exercising for their health and for their mindset, and community, socializing, being part of a team, getting outside of, their norm. But then for us, we think, well, that doesn't matter. I have other jobs and responsibilities. And I think for a lot of women, they believe that their family is going to be mad if they're not there all the time. And the reality is they'll be fine. They will be fine without you. It's also okay to disappoint them. And in the beginning, if you've been martyr mom that has always been there for every drop off, every pickup, everything, and you never take time for yourself, this is actually the biggest thing you're teaching your kids, and you're modeling what it means to put everyone else first and not take care of you. And, for a woman, when she gets to the point where she's so exhausted and there is adrenal health issues that are going on, or her thyroid or inflammation or pain or whatever it is, that doesn't happen between a Monday and a Friday in one 5-day stretch. That has been going on for a decade or longer. And so I would say to that woman, I guarantee you probably snooze in the morning, which is 9 minutes long, at least snoozing once. The average human being is snoozing anywhere from 1 to 5 times. So you're talking 9 to 45 minutes every single morning. That is really, this is time wasted. This is where we're leaking energy. And so we fool ourselves into thinking that we're actually getting more sleep when we do that, but you will never drop back into a restorative type of sleep. You're on the surface. And so, I think that if you choose the power of snooze, as I refer it to, that's 9 minutes to stretch your body, to do a couple of down dogs, a child's pose. It's 9 minutes that you could drink that full glass of water, take the supplements that you need to remember to do, just spend that extra time. If you've been snoozing, for a half an hour worth of time, well, there's your 30 minutes you've been looking for. It's not about having to create more hours in the day. None of us get any more. It doesn't matter who you are and what you do. We all have the same 24 hours. It's about choosing and prioritizing what you are going to do with that time. And so I think that it needs to be an appointment. It has to be a soul appointment, the same way that you would have these appointments for everyone else in your family. Where is yours? I talk to women a lot who are like, well, I clean the house vigorously. I vacuum like I'm Mighty Mouse when I'm tidying the house. And when I run my errands, I'm doing it quick and I park far away. And I'm like, okay, so that's great. So you're moving, but is that movement for joy? Like, do you love, is that filling you up, or is that you just crossing things off the list? Right? Like, those are tasks you just described to me. That's not movement for your health and for you and your body. And yeah, so everybody, you got to meet them where they are at, in terms of what's their ability, do they have financially to invest? Is it going to happen in the home, out of the home, those types of things. But at the end of the day, we have to be moving. And I use the words movement and exercise separately because they're not the same thing. But as a female.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
The difference between that, the movement and, really exercise, and what's really important.
Well, movement is getting up and moving your body in terms of, like, you're not sitting all day, you're not lying on the couch all day, you're not, in a car all day. You have to move your body for your lymphatic system. So movement is not about shedding calories and getting a tighter bum and, a slimmer waistline. Movement is about, are we doing the things that our body systems require to function well? So that lymphatic system, have fluid movement, for your heart to be pumping. Also, to make sure that we are keeping our joints in motion so that we're not building up, the rust and the crust of life, being stuck in those same stagnant positions all the time. And, motility, so digestive issues, constipation. Most people who are constipated, they're either really tight in their body from lack of physical movement, or they're tight in their personality, right? Like they just are controlling and are, just literally holding on to all of the stuff, including, their poop. And if you get them moving their body more often, that helps to increase that motility and to get things flowing for them. Exercise is going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say linear, but a little bit more of a controlled environment. Your heart rate is going to be elevated a bit more. Breath is going to be, body temperature. There's going to be a sweat that you are incorporating into your movement. There's probably some progressive load, right? Doing strength training. It's something that's a little bit more organized and scheduled. And, you're thinking about this. So exercise is super important. Movement is a must. So movement you need to do every day, simply for daily function. Exercise is, I also think, really important, because this is where you're producing a lot of your endorphins, which are going to help you mentally and emotionally. And as a woman, as we age and our hormone levels start to drop, so does our serotonin. And serotonin is another hormone, and it's produced in the lining of the gut primarily. And serotonin is your anti-anxiety, antidepressant hormone. It's also what's helping to convert into dopamine and to melatonin to help you sleep and feel calm. So the more, I don't want to say the more, because I see women do the opposite, where they go full tilt and they are doing tons of cardio, and they're doing, all the boot camps and F45 and Orange Theory and tons of CrossFit. And, especially if we're talking to a population that has had some history of illness or wear and tear on their body, those are not the things I'm talking about. Walking, cycling if you love it, yoga, Pilates, bar classes, strength training using your own body weight or some free weights and machines. You have to, as a woman, increase that amount of muscle tissue that you have on your body to support your metabolism, and to help to support those hormones as we age.
That's a lot. So walk me through someone who says, "Hey, Jenn, I got your name from my friend Susie." We always use that name, Susie, right? So Susie told me to get in touch with you because I really want to work with you. I've been dealing with, pick a chronic issue. You could say Lyme, you could say rheumatoid arthritis, you could say, a gut kind of issue. How do people get in touch with you? And how do you determine what they need?
So I don't do any private personal training in that sense anymore. I have movement series that I've created. So for that person you're describing, I would have them purchase Fit, Fierce, and Fluid, which is a program that I have that is no impact. It's all close to the floor. They only need their body weight, and it's Pilates based. And so and everything is 30 minutes or less each time that you show up to that series. And there's different calendars laid out for you in terms of where you're at. And I would say to that woman, Susie, I would say, let's start you off with something like that, that's going to make you feel good. You're moving your body, but it's not going to tax you. You're not going to feel unwell. It's not going to take you a long time to recover. And then I'd love if you could get outside and walk as well as do that. That would be the perfect place for you to begin. And then from there, once she feels like, I am doing so well with this, I think I'm ready for another challenge, then there are additional programs that I offer. I have one called Sleeveless Strength that is all upper body and core conditioning. And then another that's called Rock Solid Booty, which is all postural and lower body. These are all done in the comfort of your home. They're all 30 minutes or less. And then I have another program that is a little bit more in depth and in tune for the woman who's struggling hormonally in terms of her menstrual cycle, perimenopause or beyond. And it's called Synced. And this program is all based on either where you are at in the different phases of your menstrual cycle, or if you no longer have a flow based on that lunar cycle. So there's quite a few different options for women to be able to tap into.
That's awesome. So do you work one-on-one regarding nutrition?
No, everything I do is group-wise now. So I have a course called the Hormone Project, and that I run 3 times a year. And our next one starts end of April, and I work with 40 women at a time. I do all their onboarding. So they get 3 private consultations with myself and my team when they do that program. So I do all the onboarding. We run different tests. We do blood analysis and Dutch hormone paneling. And then they have the option of doing a GI map test and hair trace mineral analysis, food sensitivity testing. One of our health coaches, where I am in Ontario, is a naturopathic doctor, but NDs, it's different province to province and state to state. So if you're in Ontario, she would come on as one of your NDs. If you're in another place in the world, she would be coming on as your health coach. And then I'm the one who actually takes you through the report of findings for all of the hormone paneling that we do. So you get the private consults in that, but I will tell you the nutrition is a symptom, right? So we all think that we're lacking the perfect meal plan, but you have to understand first what your body is going through and what your body requires in terms of balancing it before you can even get to that place. So the Hormone Project is 10 weeks long, and all you learn about is your endocrine system as a woman. Like literally when you graduate from this program, you will be the person who will then be able to, majority of our women who come out of this are like, I think I actually want to go back to school now and continue that. So that's what that is an educational series. But the food side of it it's a big one because it's emotionally charged for so many people. And I would say to the women listening that one of the best things you could do for yourself nutritionally is start to remove the most common triggers and inflammatory offenders, right? And those, I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about these things on the podcast at this point. Yes and no? So it would be, Dairy is a huge one, cow dairy specifically because of the A1 casein. It is a protein that is highly inflammatory to the joints, to the lining of the gut. For women who have a lot of hormonal issues and digestive issues, it is also extremely inflammatory in that regard because dairy is a hormonal byproduct. It's coming from a pregnant cow that is meant for her baby calf. Amazing, best nutrients for that baby, but not for our body. It is far too much for us to digest and break down. So dairy is a big one. Gluten definitely is. And, this is something that I think a lot of people look at and think it's going gluten-free like a diet. No, going gluten-free is removing a trigger to your immune system. So this affects the lining of the gut, your mucosal barrier, your thyroid. This is a huge one for anyone who has any thyroid issues. You have got to be 100% off of that gluten. And then there can be other things. Alcohol is a huge one. Caffeine, sugar. Some people don't respond well to eggs. And so that, the top surface ones would be get rid of your cow dairy, make sure that you are choosing non-glutinous grains. Your animal products that you're consuming, are they organic? Are they antibiotic free? Those are some of the kind of top things. And then when you're looking at your produce, again, can you choose organic, local to where you are, non-GMO, and just real food? I always say to people, if you get confused and overwhelmed, just ask yourself this. Did it fall off a tree? Did it grow from the ground? Did it run across land? Or did it swim in the ocean? Like that's food, that's real. But if it's been on a shelf for goodness knows how long, if you don't understand any of the ingredients on the back, if you're seeing numbers with hashtags in the label ingredients, artificial, all the different things, like, please put it down. That's not a treat for your body. That's like a poison for your system. You're triggering a lot of pain and inflammation. And but it's hard. I mean, it's hard. Food is a big emotional one for people.
And there's a lot of things there's a lot of things in food. I think I know we're supposed to be off, of course, dairy, but there are preservatives and anti-mold ingredients in your cheeses. People wouldn't know that.
Yes.
People don't understand that something like a pickle that you're not actually making at home has food dye in it, because people want to look at it and see that green kind of color all the way through.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Who's benefiting from that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the company, that's who. And that's the only person who does, right? Unfortunately. So yeah, it is. It's tricky because if you're just getting into this, it feels overwhelming, because probably the reality is everything you've been eating, when you start to read it, you're like, oh my gosh, I can okay, the lemon is safe. That's all that's safe in the house. Right? So you have to take baby steps, but you've got to be committed in the sense of asking yourself that if you've been feeling really unwell for a really long time, and I mean, I'm working with women where they haven't been able to get out of bed for many, many days. They are, they're not sleeping. They are in so much chronic pain. And, and then they'll get emotional when I talk about some of the food changes they have to make, because, oh my God, that's so hard. And it's like, but what's harder? Because if you can just give us a couple of weeks, 30 days, I guarantee you, we're going to be able to reduce probably at least 25 to 30% of some of these big, gnarly struggles that you're feeling. And I always say to people, that first phase, it's like lifting the fog. You have no idea what's right in front of you if it's a foggy image. You get rid of that fog and the clouds part, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this was right in front of me the entire time, right? So, yeah.
I tell people they have to embrace the knowledge. When I talk to patients, I kind of talk about just being aware. That's the first step, because what happens is people who are busy are like grabbing things and eating and running out the door. No one plans, no one kind of makes, the thought process of, okay, I've got to few extra hours on a Sunday, I'm going to plan things, you
Yeah.
know. One of the really cool things that you're probably well aware of is called That Clean Plate or That Clean Life. My daughter uses it. She's
Yeah.
a functional registered dietitian. So people can ask
Yeah.
her, listen, I want to consult. Can you plan something? Can you show me a couple of weeks worth of what I could use,
Yes.
rotate? And it's nice because right away you get your recipe, your food prep, and what's even the most important is the grocery list, because we do waste a lot of food.
List. Yeah.
We find,
Yes.
half
Yeah.
broccoli in the back, or the kale that we forgot to, use. And, people get
Mhm.
real nervous because they want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But some people are really not receptive. And I think that those people just are not ready.
Yeah, and it's, things like That Clean Life, that is a great service. There's also, things like different food delivery companies. And so if you're wasting a lot, you've got to look at, what is this worth in terms of your time? You're, taking the stress off yourself of what to eat and waste. So if you can go and on your busiest days of the week, like I do this, and I write cookbooks. I'm a nutritionist for a living. And I have a company that 2 nights a week, when it's the kids' busy nights with sports and my husband and I are kind of passing ships with our companies, I have a company that makes us meals on those nights. And I'm telling you, it's like the feeling if you have a cleaning lady when you walk into your house it's only going to stay clean for half an hour before the whole family gets home, but it's the best half hour ever. And that's what it is, having somebody prep these meals. It takes such a load off of me. And so that's one tip. The other thing I would say is, do your staple grocery shopping once a week, which is like the big things that you need, and plan to go back to the grocery store one more time for a restock of your produce. So please don't buy 7 days worth of produce when you have no idea how that week is going to unfold. And you don't want to end up finding the stuff at the bottom of the crisper in the back of the fridge. So take some of the load off yourself. I think Sundays is a great day to, I always say, like, if you're going to grill up, 4 chicken breasts, make 8. If you're going to hard boil 4 eggs, do a whole dozen. If you're going to roast a tray of vegetables, roast 2 trays of vegetables, and then put it into Corningware dishes into the fridge so that you've got those things prepped for yourself. But I think we have to take the amount of pressure off of ourselves, start small so that you feel like you're making some leeway. And then as it becomes a new habit and you're like, oh, this is just what I do now. Well, now then maybe you're ready to add another day in there.
Right, because all our bad habits have been started by that same process,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just the way. My favorite thing now is the Instant Pot.
Oh,
And
yes.
oh my God, where has that been all my life? I mean, I was good with the crock pot. It's so funny because my husband and I, sometimes
Yeah.
we're going to do errands or whatever, I might start like a beef stew or a chicken dinner or whatever in the crock pot. We're out. And then we come back in and I'm like, did the kitties and the dog cook while we were out? The house
Yes.
it smells good, and it's easy. The
Yeah.
cleanup is easy. People think they have to be French cooks. They
Oh
don't.
my gosh.
They don't.
No. And that's why I wrote the cookbooks I did, because my husband and I both run our own companies. We have children that are involved in extracurriculars. And as much as I love cooking, I don't want to be in the kitchen for hours every day. And so all of my recipes are like my movement series, 30 minutes or less. And it is simple things, and where you are going to reuse a lot of the same ingredients. Because I think it's frustrating when you get a recipe, you buy one ingredient and you're like, well, I'm never going to use that ingredient again in anything. So it's just looking for the simplicity in all of it.
One of the really cool things that my daughter is a LEAP, LEAP, elite
Mhm.
consultant or elite trained person. It's so funny because here I am, the nurse practitioner, and I do all the medical stuff, and then I defer to her for all the diet stuff and all that nutrition. And it's so funny the amount of knowledge that kid has. I was like, God, this is great.
Yeah.
Well worth my, the cost of school for you. Excuse me. But she does MRT, mediator.
Yeah. The food sensitivity testing. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. This is certainly a bit more costly, but for people who did not get far enough with just kind of
Yeah.
an elimination diet, it's super, super, super
Mhm.
specific. And I'm going to tell you, my husband doesn't always listen to the podcast, so I guess I can talk about him. Anyways, yeah, the poor guy, all of a sudden, it was kind of like, some visual thing, and then it went into like he's got a history of migraine, and then he got
Mm.
vertiginous migraine. So it would come on like boom, and he would be had such vertigo, and he would be so nauseous and so sick. In the very beginning, I had to go and get him off the highway. To have to get a friend, drive me, find him on the highway. Yeah, because he couldn't drive. He was spinning all around. Anyways, and so Kara said, okay, Dad, you've gone through, you do this, you rule out the scary stuff. He didn't have a brain tumor,
Mhm.
those kind of things. Anyways, and put him through the MRT. And I did it too, hoping that we would
Yeah.
have the same food sensitivities. Well, of course not. We didn't. So trying to merge our diets in the beginning were difficult, but I'm going to tell you, he stuck to it. And now
Yes.
we cleaned up his gut. We put him on a gut protocol with
Yep.
biocidin and GI
Yep.
detox and all. And he did it. And I'm going to tell you, it's fairly rare. And if it comes on, he can actually kind of wait it out. It doesn't put him.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think there are a variety of people who could benefit. It isn't, a test that's covered by insurance, but if you look at it as
But here's the thing. Well, and this is an investment. It's like, do you know how much in our life we spend and waste money on that is not covered by insurance? Like the $1,000 iPhone that somebody's buying, that is not covered by insurance. Your holidays, that's not covered. Your wine, your pizza, your shoes, your handbags, your clothes, your expensive car, no one's covering that for you. But because you prioritize it more right now, you can make concessions around spending the money on that. When you don't yet understand, because you've not yet felt the difference, you look at all of these things like, well, that's too much money. That's absurd. But we don't say that about the other stuff because we think that matters more. And some people don't like hearing that, right? It can ruffle feathers, but it's just the honest truth when we're looking, and we all have that, right? So for me, I spend all my money on my health and on our travel and that. But if somebody were to tell me I had to go and spend it on, I don't know, some like super sophisticated, upgraded technical gadget computer thing for my company, I'd be like, because it doesn't click with me. It doesn't resonate. I don't feel like that's going to rescue me from my struggle. But when you get somebody who is in that much dire need, they are just like, please run every test. Like, I need help. And the problem is that typically with conventional medicine is, even though there's a lot of testing that can be offered, it's a lot of linear testing is where a lot of the functional testing is looking at the bigger pieces of the puzzle, right? And then trying to pull them together. So yeah.
Yeah, we try not to make it about a disease. We
Yes.
know that the body is in dis-ease,
Mm-hmm.
so much more. And slapping on a prescription, there is a place for that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Right.
not leaving it
Yeah.
at that point. What else can we do? And, here, our insurance in the United States has become so expensive that for people to get a plan that they can afford, they have to take a big deductible plan. So you have to meet those deductibles.
Yeah.
And so by utilizing it in a way that you are benefiting your health is, I think, better than paying $45 co-pays, running from provider to provider to provider, and those providers are not
Yeah.
necessarily talking to each other. So you've got duplicates, you just don't have that support. So working with,
Yeah.
a group or individually, or, really finding that importance of taking care of yourself and putting on your life best first is
Yes.
the only way we're going to make it through our life. The
100%.
chronicity,
Yeah.
think about the kids now. The kids,
Oh God.
oh, I'm sure you are like, I,
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, and even not too long ago, going out to, say, the beach. And, okay, well, there's the kids. But now I'm like, wow, wow. And then you look up, the beach, and you see, here comes mom and dad. And it's like, wow, do they not really realize what a disservice they're doing to themselves as well as their children?
And it's so sad. And I really, it scares me when I see a lot of it happening, but I feel that level of empathy because food now is literally a drug. And when you have leaky gut, you have leaky brain. It's sharing the same blood-brain barrier. And when you are consuming food that is literally creating a internal drug reaction in your body, a biofeedback loop that is rewarding you with more dopamine every single time, the addiction is real. And you've got unstable blood sugar, and you've got it's just, and you're in the US, I'm in Canada, our governments are different yet somewhat similar in different things. And I really wish that our educational system would take it upon themselves to do a better job. Why do we have lunch programs in school that are fast food supported? This is the wrong message to teach our children. It's, and this generation, this is the first generation in the history of mankind that the World Health Organization has come out and said will not live as long as their parents. That is awful. How do we live in a time where there is billions of dollars being spent trying to figure out how to allow people to take a leisurely trip to Mars and to the moon? Yet we have children that are being diagnosed with diabetes as infants, which is why it's no longer called type 2 adult onset diabetes. It is now just type 2 because babies are being diagnosed with this. And you have children who are so obese that they can't breathe. And it literally breaks my heart. And I look at this world where there's so many things that we are ahead on and that we have developed. Yet how are we not getting it right when it comes to humanity and to the health of human beings? This is like what you brought up at the very beginning of you have to mother the mother. How are we so far off the mark when it comes to taking care of human beings?
Right. My husband always says that if a plane is following a course and you start moving even a little off course, by the time you land, you're nowhere near the airport.
Oh yeah. The trajectory is completely, I use this analogy, that same thing, flight. I use it with golf a lot too. I grew up in a golf family. So it's, you're standing just like 2 millimeters difference with the positioning of your body, and you can be looking straight down that fairway. But if your angle is off, that ball is going to go way off into no man's land. And that's like your health every day. And here's the thing. Like the power of snooze, we're talking 9 minutes to recapture some time just for you that can change your day. A glass of water when you wake up, one more vegetable today than you ate yesterday. Get to bed 15 minutes earlier tonight than you did last night. Give someone a hug that lasts more than 10 seconds. These are small, fundamental things that when you hear it, you're like, what? That is not going to change anything. But it is, you start to stack those on. It's the compounding interest. It's the compounding effect that you're going to get.
And it's funny because different cultures don't accept touch as some other ones. And you know what? That's why I left that virtual space, even though I still do some virtual consults. I have a Connecticut and a Massachusetts license, so I can can do that. Um, but I miss I mean, when you practice women's health as a gynecologist, you can't help, you have to touch people, right? And
Right. Yes.
right. And, I'm a goofball, and I would come up with, crazy things, laughing. Like, I was trying to do a breast exam on a woman, and I was teaching her that this outer part is called a tail. And, she was nervous. It might have been the first time she met me or whatever. And I go, yeah, do you remember the book Tale of Two Cities? Oh, yeah. I go, well, now you have tails
Oh,
on your two kitties. And so she's going to remember that, there's a tail here. I gotta check out.
yes.
But the idea of touch is healing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
do you just get the woo-woos, like, just so, like, just warm and fuzzy when you see an elder couple holding hands?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
that just says it all right there. I'm willing to be with you. I want to help you.
Hmm.
And I really want to just comment on the fact that 50% of relationships don't make it.
Hmm.
So for women, if we're talking more about women, that puts a huge burden on them, because
Hmm.
they're, working hard on all angles. But you know what? If we just get back to some of the things that make people feel good, right? You know,
Hmm.
women
Hmm.
women are terrible when it comes to complimenting another woman. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. When's the last time a woman said, "Oh my God, Jen, you've got beautiful long hair." I mean, just like that, or just offering someone a smile who's least deserving, those people that are just,
Yes, that's it. Those random acts of kindness, like, just, it cost you nothing, but you have no idea how you can impact someone else's day and their life just by saying that. And this is, I think, kind of one of the final pieces that we'll chat on, is just, it's the power of community. And so my business is primarily online, but I've been doing this for 24 years now. I have always maintained an in-person community connection with different events and different workshops. And I still teach, locally, some fitness classes. And because I believe that community is like the elixir for our soul as women. And if we don't have that, if you isolate yourself, if you, avoid all that type of contact as a way to protect yourself, or because you're too busy, you're missing out on something that, could really be filling you back up.
yep. I think today, when people are listening to this, they should call their good friend and say, "Hey, let's go take a walk."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot about that, especially because I think women are one of those groups that really need a group. They need their little group. Men
Mhm.
deal with things completely different. Women, if they're unhappy, they kind of hold it all in a little bit. Guys are like, "You're a jerk," and they and then it's
Mhm.
over,
Mhm.
and then they're friends again.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and family, a lot of families, think of the Italians especially, they come
Mhm.
together around the table. And
Yes.
a lot of families have lost that ability to share that time.
Yeah.
And again, thinking about how to keep your family as healthy as possible, we need to do that family time, and we need to get our kids
Mhm.
active if they're not active, and away from all of the electronics and things of that nature. It's we've advanced, but we've also regressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah. Time for a change.
It is. So we've covered a lot of bases here,
Mhm.
and we've talked a lot about the importance of movement, and we don't have to be fearful of, stepping it up a little bit. But I will have to add that aggressive exercise is also something that releases free radicals that are damaging to our cells. So not,
Mhm.
you don't have to be that aggressive. We can do it at a lesser pace and still make a really good impact for an overall health and wellness. Um, so Jen, is there a website that people can look into all of the things that you offer?
Yeah, so if they visit www.jennpike.com, and my name Jen is with two N's, they can go under programs. They can see everything that's offered there. And in terms of intensity, that's not what my programs are about. We just want you feeling good at the end of the day. And then Instagram is where I share a lot of information as well. And same thing, it's Jen with two N's, Pike, Pike. And those are the two best places. And then my podcast, the Simplicity Sessions, where we have conversations every Monday, just like this.
This is awesome. This is often and awesome. So for everybody that has been listening, this has been Jenn Pike and of course myself, Cindy Kennedy, the host of Living with Lyme. We encourage you to get out, take a walk today, give a friend a hug, and come on to my new website, www.pursue, Pursue, wellness, wellness.us, and think about working with us. We can help you. For everybody, make it a good day. Bye-bye.